Hello, Chaos, I tell you, 2023. If you're looking for me on YouTube and Twitch, that is my name. I think that's my name also on TikTok, so I go on there briefly, but it's fun going on TikTok as well. So I find out without a voice game, you must save your progress. It doesn't auto save it for you. So we are going to start from the beginning, which is okay by me. I enjoyed it, and I might pick something different, maybe something really, really different is going to happen. So this time I'm going to save it. If you saw the last one, it was really, really creepy. And I saw screenshots of what is to come, which I'm not going to tell you guys. And it's wild. Like, not what I was expecting at all. So I don't know the what everybody was talking about, but I do see the pictures of what went down, and it's pretty crazy. So let's start this beautiful game that I love so much. Without a voice, when cold, cruel destiny has thee within her grasp, thou may endeavor bravely, dear, to change thy path. But fate cares not which twisted road you choose to take. You dance atop her palm, withery choice you make. I love the poems in here. They're awesome. Day 1. It was morning like any other. The tragedy soon to unfold would affect so few people that time would swiftly forget it. For those involved, however, that morning was a maelstrom drawing them each in, closer and closer still. It all began innocently enough, with a certain exiled princess in a terrible predicament. There is the lovely princess. Ah, oh dear, I've run out of firewood. If only I'd noticed yesterday. This has caught me quite unawares. The ex-princess in question was named Cassidy, and she was the eldest child of the kingdom of Veromere. What's that you say? You've never heard of Veromere? Well, me neither. One shouldn't be surprised. This all happened long before the universe summoned you into existence. The next shipment isn't due for a little while yet. But I cannot wait. I won't be able to cook or do laundry without a fire. So long had the princess had been living in this cottage alone that she'd taken to talking to herself just to feel less lonely. Determined to gather some wood before sundown, Cassidy grabbed a hatchet and some linen and then quilted the place. Quilted the place. I like quilted the place better. Once outside, she paused, considering for the umpteenth time whether it would be best for her to lock the door. See, in my neighborhood, I don't lock the door. No one will come in anyway. My brother's agents never enter, and no one else travels this deep into the wood. Convincing herself so, Cassidy turned away and headed into the forest to begin her mission. Unfortunately, her determination and willpower were short-lived. As I thought, firewood isn't just lying on the ground, just waiting to be picked up. Thought she brought the hatchet. She'd foolishly hoped she wouldn't have to use it. Faced with so many different types of trees, most of them quite large, she was unsure how to proceed. Now that I think about it, how much firewood do I usually use at once? Oh, the more I try to remember, the more addled I get. Perhaps I'll just subsist on fruits and fungus until the next crate arrives. A timely stomach growl quickly puts a stop to such plans. Cassidy let out a sigh. For now, then, I shall return to my favorite place. It always brings me peace. That place holds some magic. I've always felt. I'm sure I shall be able to think of something once I'm there. Her spirit restored, Cassidy hefted her linen satchel a little higher. It was not long until she would be comfortable again, she thought. Why, you are as radiant as ever. There were many views to take pleasure in this forest, but this one in particular always brought her delight. Though she had lived here now for some seasons, the trees before her seemed never to change. I don't know much about wisteria. Are they meant to stay in bloom year-round? Perhaps the winters here are mild. Wisteria shall wither not when flakes of winter fall. Yet all must some day perish while heeding nature's call. But nature welds not power us all. A clear wind-chime voice caught Cassidy's attention. Cassidy's heart struck in her throat as she followed the sound and caught sight of the woman sitting there. She had never before seen a woman so breathtakingly beautiful. My apologies for interrupting your poem, ma'am. It was only a couplet. You did not interrupt so much as improve it. Oh, then all the better, but it is not safe to be so deep in the wood. Tarry not. I live here. It is quite safe, I assure you. I dare say I have lived here much longer than you have. No harm has ever come to me in these woods. Perhaps our experiences merely differ. Certainly, I concede your point. Cassidy paused a little while, unsure of how to carry on the conversation. How strange. I used to make small talk with all the quarters as if it were nothing. Has time truly affected me so? Do you live here? I do. I have never seen you. I'm quite sure of it. I would remember someone like you. Whereabouts do you live, if you don't mind me asking? Hardly a stone's throw from where we now stand. A stone's throw? Can I say how can that be? Or that is highly suspect. What do you think? One or two. Answers. I'm looking for one or two. While we're waiting for our answers, let's move my head over to here. And maybe a little right here so we can see it better. One or two, guys. Hello, Mr. Patrick. It's so good to see you. I'm very, very happy you joined. I'm asking people if they want one or two to the question. If you want to join in, feel free. A stone's throw. How can that be? That is highly suspect. So she wants to know how this girl lives in the woods when she's never seen her before. Do you want to answer? If not, I would choose. I'm going to say, how can that be? I suppose she does not wish to expose where she lives to an utter stranger. That is reasonable. She seems to be quite on her guard. I envy your view of this lovely place. Do not envy me. What could that mean? How droll. Oh, where are my manners? My name is Cassidy. I, too, live nearby. You can call me Elowen. Elowen. What a lovely name. Besides, I was already aware that you live nearby. What? How? I've seen you before, I bet, from a distance. You come here often. Oh dear, I must have been making a complete fool of myself. I'm sorry that you had to witness that. Cassidy thought back to all the complaining she'd done under this tree, and all the time she sold herself trying to gather fruit. There were many others truly mortifying memories. She stared at the ground in shame. When she looked up, however, Elowen was smiling. Cassidy felt her tension wane. So what brings you back to this place? I wanted to calm myself. Calm yourself? What for? What could possibly cause you distress? What a sour tone. Does she think I just daydream and laze about all day? Many things. I'll have you know that at this very minute, I'm on a mission that I might mean the difference between life and death. Oh, yet you dally here? What could this mission involve? Prayer tell? I see my presence is not wanted here. I shall return to my favorite search forthwith. Just as she was about to turn away and leave Elowen and her wisteria tree behind, Cassidy heard Elowen laugh softly. It was bewitching sound. I see, I offended Melody. No offense was meant, I can assure. Really? Truly, I would never wish to cause you pain. Tell me of your mission. I have run out of firewood. Upon hearing this, Elowen stood up and dusted herself off. Allow me to be of service. Oh no, I couldn't possibly impose. Please, this tree suffers so much every time you shed your tears and frustration upon it. Huh? Yet, despite her abrasive words, Elowen was tirelessly helpful. It was she who taught Cassidy to gather smaller bits of kindling and to use the hatchet when that proved insufficient. If you wrap these smaller branches together, they shall burn just fine. I see. Oh, I am certainly glad not to have to chop down a whole tree. I was worried about that. Yes, once felled, a tree can never rise again. Take of them their fruit, their branches, but spare their roots and lifeblood. Lifeblood? Do trees have blood? The forest is quite old, you know. I wish it would stay forever this way, but man has trouble leaving things be. The disparity between Elowen's indifferent expression and the biting tone of her voice made Cassidy's heart ache. She must have had a bad experience, or she must love trees. One or two, guys, one or two. How do we want to move on? Anyone? One or two. Alright, I will continue. I will choose. She must have had a bad experience, is what I'm putting. We humans are meddlesome things, aren't we? Perhaps I'm making too light of her feelings. I thought that was rather an intelligent thing to say. You truly love the forest. Yes, in fact, I feel that I am part of it, and it is part of me. How beautiful. The two continued through the forest, gathering wood and passing the time with easy conversation. As they walked leisurely, the sun began to sink. So, too, did the satchel of wood over Cassidy's shoulder sag. It seems that you've gathered plenty of wood now. Surely that will be enough. Ah, you're right. The time had quite gotten away from the exiled princess. Now that her afternoon together was coming to an end, Cassidy was afraid. Afraid and hopeful, which was perhaps more dangerous still than... Excuse me, Miss Elowen? Yes? That is, might we meet again? You've no idea how happy I am to meet another person living in the wood. And a woman at that. Yet the expression on Elwyn's face showed that she had, in fact, some idea. I was about to suggest the same. You might find me in that area most afternoons. I see then. Until tomorrow. Would that we meet so soon, my lady? With that, Elwyn bowed and left. Her steps make almost no sound. What a graceful woman. Not just beautiful, but elegant and smart. As she walked back to her cottage, so filled with thoughts of Elwyn was her head, that Cassidy forgot all about her fatigue and the weight of her burden. She certainly is opinionated, but she must have so much more experience living independently than I. I hope I am not a bother to her. And with that, the once princess returned home, blissfully unaware of the roots that were this very moment grabbing hold of her heels and pulling her beneath. It is said a fool repeats his days, changing not but expecting change. I poist these men are by routine hogtied. They expect not and are by not satisfied. Day 2. Ooh, I wonder what's gonna happen. There's a sort of melancholy one feels when closing a book for the final time, feeling its last words wash over you as you leave its world and return to your own life. It was an annual that Cassidy had grown used to. In her former life, she had received the best education that money and bribery might buy. Now that bright mind was left to languish, fed by nothing more than a single new book each fortnight. But now Cassidy was in the habit of reading very slowly indeed. She shut her latest tome and placed it upon the table next to her half-written letter to her brother. I never sound quite myself in these letters. How do you wire from a distance to one whom you saw daily? How do you write anything at all when your life has grown so dull? She decided to pen a few more sentences on how moved she felt after reading the book, and how proudly distressed she was by the ending of it. Family is important, but so too is recognizing the value of what you have before it is too late. If only the king had realized that a wonderful daughter he had, and I hope that you realize how much you are loved by me, your one and only sister. She paused, overcome by sheer feeling, and decided to keep that final bit to herself. It was too desperate for some comfort, and Princess did not wince so. No, that won't do it at all. How unbecoming. With a sigh, Cassidy stared at the crackling fire. She had more than enough firewood now to last until her next shipment of it. The sight reminded her of Elwyn. I wonder what Elwyn is doing at this very moment. She cannot fathom the day-to-day life of such a mysterious personage was utterly beyond her imagination. Her curiosity so enraged it was now impossible to ignore. And so the fair Cassidy resolved herself to take a walk and casually seek the other woman out. Perhaps I'll even stumble across where she lives today. Wouldn't it be exciting to surprise her at her home? Thinking nothing at all of how inconvenient, how overly forward and impertinent it might be, she departed immediately. Once outside, Cassidy took in a deep lungful of crisp forest air. How lovely it is today. Hardly a cloud in the sky. She took measured steps into the forest, consistently scanning the area around her, on the lookout for this elusive domicile. Might Elwyn live in a cottage like mine? She is so elegant, I cannot imagine her doing housework. Then again, I could hardly imagine myself doing housework not so long ago. Oh, how times change a person. Cassidy reached her beloved wisteria tree before long and eagerly drank in the sight of it. She ran up to the tree and encircled it with her arms as if the meaning to embrace it. Hello, dear tree. You are looking as lovely as ever today, though a certain someone sits not beneath your boughs this afternoon. She leaned one side and then the other, looking around the tree and into the forest to see if she might spy a window or the billowing of a chimney smoke. Sadly, she could make out only more trees. I can't suppose that Elwyn lives in a tree house, does she? Certainly not. Oh. Startled, Cassidy jumped her foot, catching unhappily on one of the tree's roots, sending her flailing forward. Careful! Elwyn's arm shot out at once, her vice-like grip snaring the once princess just in time. Snarl, that would have been fun. Elwyn's touch was so cold, yet her movement decisive. Cassidy's heart raced. Worried for me? It took Cassidy several moments to regain her composure. Elwyn, too, looked a bit shaken. Thank goodness you arrived when you did. Though, truth be told, if you hadn't startled me so, I would not have fallen. Is that so? I shall endeavor to be less frightening in the future, then. Oh dear, she may have mistakenly by meaning I was only trying to cover up my embarrassment. Should we say, number one, perhaps Elwyn was joking, or two, that is not necessary. Any suggestions? One or two? Alright, I'm going with two. That is not necessary. I don't understand what you mean. I certainly don't think you're frightening. Oh, your earlier words seem to suggest otherwise. I was merely, oh, never mind. How confusing you are. Still, how curious it is for us to be meeting here again. You come here often. I live nearby. What is curious about that? I'm merely saying that it's serpentindus. It must be fate. Fate has nothing to do with it, I assure you. Oh, but it's so much more romantic to think of it as fate. I can think of nothing less romantic than fate. Perhaps this is something not yet possible for you to understand. Don't speak as though you're much older and wiser than me. Elwyn laughed a little. How old are you anyway? How old do you think? Cassidy stared at Elwyn, gazing deeply into her eyes, as if she might find the other woman's secrets there. Older than I first thought, perhaps? A wise answer. Elwyn tipped her head slightly, the motion seemingly to indicate a desire to walk on. Cassidy was only too happy to comply. Together the women strolled. Their time together was marked by companionable silence. Cassidy, never before a quiet girl, was desperate to fill it, but what conversation might pique Elwyn's interest was unclear. She peered shyly at Elwyn's face and profile, so strikingly noble did it seem. She has the air of an aristocrat. What could someone like she be doing living in the forest? Then again, am I not in the same position? Perhaps it's something she finds difficult to speak of. An icy gust of wind whistled through the clearing, causing Cassidy to shift. Setting soon, and it will grow colder. Perhaps you should. It was then that the question Cassidy had been ruminating on over all afternoon burst forth. Would you like to come to my cottage? Elwyn appeared quite overcome. Is that wise? Whatever do you mean? How can you extend such an invitation to one such as me, whom you hardly know? You are entirely too trusting. I'm surprised at you. Two solitary women ought to stick together out in these wilds. Besides, who else do I have to invite? I am. That is, I sometimes feel quite lonely out here. Don't you? Elwyn turned her head slightly and gazed into the forest behind them, as if peering at something only she could see. Loneliness, then, I see. Very well, I will take you up on your offer. Though puzzled by Elwyn's hesitation, Cassidy was overjoyed that her invitation had been accepted. There was a spring in her step, and she led the other women to her home. The other women. She led the women. It was only in front of the cottage that Cassidy suddenly understood what an impetuous thing it was that she was doing. Is the house clean enough? She could not seem to recall when she had last swept or aired out her bedding. Is this where you live? Yes. It's charming. Thank you. I wish I could take more credit for that. The house was here long before I arrived. Even the furniture. It's not truly my own. Still, it suits you. Thank you. Bolstered by Elwyn's reaction, Cassidy finally gained the courage to follow through. She opened the door wide, gesturing for the other woman to enter. As Elwyn did so, with her unusual slow, measured steps, Cassidy could not help but notice the other woman's feet, clearly visible in the slippers she wore. Okay. Her toes are curled. How odd. They stayed that way, even as Elwyn entered the house. Because she's a demon! No, I don't know. I think something really bad's going to happen. Perhaps her manner of walking is not purely for the sake of elegance, but also necessity. Had Elwyn some sort of pain in her feet? Cassidy pondered on this and resolved to ask about it when the opportunity arose. Is it quite? It is quite spacious. You live here alone? That's right. It's not so bad. I don't have anyone to tell me what to do or where to go. I have a freedom now that I've never known before. Perhaps, but sometimes I believe that being tied down to something is easier. If you don't realize you're being strangled, it's just a pleasant, light-headed feeling. I don't really understand. It's alright if you don't. Evelyn walked slowly from one part of the room to the next, her fingertips ghosting over every surface. She looked to be seeking the essence of each object, taking in every minute flaw and deciphering its true nature. Cassidy wondered what Evelyn might discover about her if only she allowed it, if only she dared. It was unbearably quiet. Just then, Evelyn came across the book Cassidy had finished reading. Oh, that's a book my brother sent to me. I get so frightfully bored here that these books have become my sanctuary. I'm expecting a new shipment soon. Your brother? Evelyn was silent for a time, digesting that new information. And then her eyes fell on the half-finished letter haphazardly placed next to the book. Cassidy followed her gaze, eyes wide. She leapt forward to snatch the letter anyway. How much had the other woman seen? She colored in mortification. Your brother is far away from here? Yes. It is beautiful, the place where you once both lived. I have not once seen its equal. More beautiful than the cottage prison of yours. That was kind of rude, right? Oh. So now we're going to choose. Cassidy could not hide her surprise at Evelyn's poisonous choice of words, nor could she hide her sudden tears. Should she say, "Excuse me," or "It's not like that"? What would you say? One or two? Anybody? Hey, Trick, TTR. Yeah, not Toontown. I played Toontown all the time. So I played something else today. But I will be back on Toontown. I'm always on Toontown. So you want to go with one or two? Anybody? I like your name, by the way. Anybody with Toontown? Alright. Alright, excuse me, I'm gonna say. Okay, I pressed it. I do not appreciate your tone. I notice you do not disagree with me, however. I most decidedly do. You don't understand how much my brother cares for me. You are correct in at least one thing there. Cassidy angrily dried her tears. Elowen looked to the window. It has gotten dark. Oh my, how rude of me. I have not offered you tea or any refreshments. Do not trouble yourself on my account. I must away. I did not mean to impose for so long. You are hardly an imposition. You are kind and good. Cassidy's face lit up. Kind and good things do not survive long in a world such as ours. And just as quickly as it had come, the sudden rush of delight. Bowing her head, the other woman was out the door and gone, leaving her hurt and confusion in her wake. I have to believe that Alexander loves me. If not, what will become of me? When she looked out the window to glimpse the same view that Elowen had just beheld, what Cassidy saw before her was but a bleak uncertainty. Without wisdom or experience, storms shall ill weathered be. But when you are nearby, dear one, no storms can bother me. Day 3. The exiled princess paused on the very first line of her letters. Is that too familiar? Will he dislike it? The brothers of her memory was a kind boy, but rather stiff, and particularly mindful of decorum. Following the events of the previous evening, Cassidy felt compelled to rewrite her half-finished letter. So the options are not that Alexander would care, or I want Alexander to see me at my best. One or two. Anybody? Oh, I didn't change the category. Whoopsie. Yeah, I'll have to do it afterwards. Frames per second. Yeah, they suck right now, is what you're saying. Yeah, I'll have to update that and change it. And plus the internet. I'm on vacation. So I'm on vacation for a month, so I'm here using their internet, and their setup is not my setup. So I got you there. I do need to change that. So I understand. Do you want one or two though? Alright, let's say not that Alexander would care. Not that Alexander will care either way, I'm sure. He's too busy to even read my letters though. Still, I want him to know how I spend my days. I feel less alone when I read this letter, and if mine can ease his spirits, then it's worthwhile endeavor. Cassidy finished the letter without much of a fuss. She briefly wrote of Elwyn, a passerby, helping her find firewood. Most of the content, however, were in regards to the book, my dear brother to send me more. When Cassidy looked at the window, she realized the sun had started to set. Oh dear, I was revising for so long. Silly me. She folded up her letter and placed it in the envelope, sealing it with the royal wax seal she was given. She stood and stretched her arms above her head. I have hardly moved all day. That is so no good. Cassidy walked to the front of the cottage, where she normally left her letters halfway beneath the door for an agent to collect. She had just stuffed her letters under the door when, Princess! Cassidy's blood ran cold for just a moment, yet soon realized who was addressing her and relaxed. You surprise me, Elwyn. She spoke to the other woman through the half-open window at the front of the cottage. I'm no princess, you know. Is that so? You seem like one to me. Cassidy was not sure how to respond to that sentiment. Have I casually let slip that I was a princess? I did not realize that I still behaved in the manner of one. Lifelong habits can not so soon be discarded, it seems. There is an envelope under the door. Oh yes, do leave it there. It's outgoing. Outgoing? Evelyn paused for a long while, but said no more on the subject. May I come in? Of course, I'm so sorry. I should have invited you in sooner. I was so taken aback, you see. I did not mean to surprise you so. It's all right, a happy surprise. I'm so glad to see you. She opened the door and ushered Elwyn inside. This time Cassidy did not forget her manners. She quickly flew into the kitchen to make her guest some tea and pulled out the crackers she'd set aside for such an occasion. Ellen politely sipped the tea, but did not touch the crackers. I suppose she has already eaten. I wonder why she does not eat. That seems kind of petty, but what do you guys think? I think it's petty. I suppose she has already eaten, is what I'm going with. There is a healthy glow to Elowen's face. I suppose she has already eaten. She strikes me as the type who would worry about her figure. She strikes me as the type that would be a vampire, so I would be careful, Miss Cassidy. And it is so late in the day already. Yes, I'm sure she has already supped, supped, and can eat no more. Who talks like that? She has already supped. I already supped. Does that mean sleep? Slept? Eat supper. Cassidy endeavored not to take offense, and instead greedily partook in the crackers herself. The two women talked pleasantries for some time, though it became rather apparent that Elowen's attention lay elsewhere. Is everything quite all right? Why do you ask? You seem somewhat reserved. That is more than usual. That letter. Hmm? You said it was outgoing. Is that the letter you wrote your brother? Oh, yes, if I leave the letters there, someone will come and collect it. Someone? How can that be? You do not go into town to have your mail delivered. She was at a loss as to how to explain. Cassidy herself knew that her situation was extraordinary. You see, though I live alone, I am well taken care of. My brother provides everything. Every fortnight or so, his agents deliver food and supplies to me. Someone is around to collect my outgoing letters once or twice a day. I only ever send my brother's letters, of course. I was not wrong when I said this place was like a jail. When do you leave here alone? When he clearly has enough resources to take care of you. Cassidy shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Elowen's eyes seemed not to look at her so much as bore into her soul. Cassidy felt judged and deemed and unworthy, although she had not yet responded to Elowen's inquiry. No matter how she phrased it in her head, it sounded awful. I am here for my own safety. She took a deep breath. When you called me princess earlier, you were not far off from the mark. I was once a princess, though I am no longer. After my father, the king's death, I was to inherit the throne, but our barons in Parliament voted no confidence. Worse, I was then handed trumped-up charges of treason. I very well could have been executed. Instead, my younger brother intervened on my behalf. So you are alive in exile, but alive. The former princess surprised herself at the depth of her own feeling, at that desperation with which she tried to convince, especially herself, that this was for her best, for the best. It's not so terrible. This cottage is lovely. It is a good thing to be among nature like this. How can you be so positive? What? You speak so fondly of your brother, when he is the one who exiled you, who left you here to rot in isolation. It's not like that, Elowen. What part of that, what part, what part of what I said is false? Tell me. What part of what I said is false? It's not that simple. It is not Alexander's fault. As a result of your dear Alexander's intervention, you were exiled, were you not? Who's to say he was not responsible for the unfavorable vote in the first place? Why would he do that? What would he have to gain? It is not my brother's fault. He could have let them kill me, but I'm alive thanks to him. I've previously stated my belief that you are a kind and good person. I have now revised my opinion. You are a blind fool. As I am mute, you are blind, altogether too blind to the selfish ways of the world. What is your meaning? It is nothing. Believe in your brother all you wish, but you cannot deny that there is a truth to what I've said. Elowen rose from her seat in one swift moment, and then headed for the door. Good night, Princess. I am Princess no longer. Mock me not, I beg you. Huh. Just like that, she was gone, disappeared into the dark. Oh, look, she's crying. Oh. Cassidy wrapped her arms around her torso, hugged herself for comfort in the wake of Elowen's sudden indignant anger. Feeling comfort none, the former princess squeezed her eyes shut. Oh, Alexander, if only she knew you as I do, then she would understand. There is a treasure that can't be bought, no matter how long it may be sought. It is something priceless yet free. I speak, of course, of an apology. Day 4. After a restless sleep, Cassidy awoke to the sun's harsh rays. She stretched, arching her back to release the tension there. Finally, her gaze went to the front door. There was a distant lack of letter beneath it. They must have come in the night. How diligent my brother's agents are. You are a blind fool. All at once, the memories of her argument with Elwyn nearly knocked the wind out of her. I cannot believe I divulged such secrets to someone I barely know. Cassidy was puzzled both of herself and at Elwyn's odd behavior. So this is what a shock that was, or I'm sure she had her reasons. Anyone? One or two? Go with one. What a shock that was. I had thought her a refined, elegant personage, but her rage was palpable and quite unseemly. I must ask her about her own life. We know so little about each other. It's no wonder she would react that way. One can only draw conclusions based on what one already knows. Presently, there was a knock at the door. Given how long it had been since her last shipment, as well as the fact that Elwyn was far more likely to announce her presence with her words, Cassidy could draw but one conclusion. She waited nearly 10 minutes before opening the door. It was protocol. She knew her brother sent, and it was unclear whether they knew whom they were delivering to. The royal family of Viromir had a distinctively look to them. It would not do for too many people to know who she was, or that a former princess dwelled here. When she finally allowed herself to open the door, she found a large wooden crate, not unlike the previous one. Sitting atop the crate, contents was sealed envelope. Cassidy instantly recognized a severe cursive. To my sister, I'm glad to hear that you are adjusting well to life at the cottage. Doubtless there are many things that challenge you, given your former life, but we must all make the best of things. I know that you have too much time on your hands, so I have been sure to enclose more books for you to read. You may one day be called upon to marry well for the advantage of the king and the country. As such, it is of utmost importance that you keep your mind sharp and your hands unidle. The last part seemed to have been written later, as the script looked different. I think of you often. I worry about you more often still. Be safe in the forest and keep to yourself, through I know that it is difficult for you. Please await my next letter. I remain your loyal brother, A. She read over the letter many times, trying her best to glean affection from it. Ha! Alexander has always been a little awkward. I'm sure the last bit was added for some reluctance after one of his advisors chastised him for the content of his letter. She smiled and ran her fingertips along the part that read, I think of you often. But then she remembered the sentence about marriage. Alright, so we have how thoughtful or I don't want to marry. I would say I don't want to marry. I never considered marriage, even before my exile. Can a noble or royal from another nation be content with a wife who has been living in the woods? Can I even be content myself in such a marriage? The letter did not raise her spirits as much as the letters from Alexander usually did. The implication of it weighed on her. Of course I must be useful to the kingdom somehow. Why else would I be alive? If I can be of use, even as a disgraced princess. Cassidy sighed. She could not finish that thought. I need a sip. All of a sudden, Cassidy wanted nothing but to see Eloise again. I will seek her out. I must. The other woman's presence would certainly be a salve for her current mood. That was her reasoning, and she swiftly acted upon it. Cassidy set the crate away inside the cottage and then set out. And after a long, fruitless walk through the forest, she arrived in front of the wisteria tree. Eloise, princess, I'm no longer a princess. Just because you no longer live in a castle does not mean that you are no longer a princess. Cassidy was reminded of the word marriage once again. Eloise was right. She was still considered a princess, insofar as a princess could be useful. A long silence passed between them. Both were conscious, no doubt, of the argument that had transpired between them, an argument they had not yet resolved. I am sorry. Eloine's eyes widened almost imperceptibly, but Cassidy, staring into the other woman's face as she was, took note. I should not have burdened you with my circumstances to begin with, but you were only worried for me. I should have been more sensitive to my explanation. No. Cassidy was struck by the sight of Eloine's soft smile as she laughed. The former princess' heart fluttered, and her brother's letter was promptly forgotten. It is nothing. It would seem that I, too, am quite the fool. The air thrust clearly. The two women were able to enjoy the rest of the day together. They whilst the time away in companionable satisfaction. That night, Cassidy drifted off to sleep with a full heart. The strings of love are oft unseen. Through wrapped around you they may be. When tied fast, none that can come between, nor challenge humble faces' decree. Day 5. Woo! I'm gonna need an intermission because my throat is getting dry. I'm used to talking this much, but not like reading, so I am going to go on a short intermission and come back. I need to stretch out a little bit. Um, I will see you soon. decided to put my hair down. Ugh, I felt it was too tight rubber band, so this is me with my hair down. Okay, and I put black glasses on. So we changed it up a little. It's like you have to do like shoulder rolls when you read like that long. It's crazy. Okay, day 5. Oh, how beautiful it is today. Indeed. Elowen had surprised Cassidy early that morning, arriving at her front door without warning. Though Elowen didn't even knock, silly creature. I wonder if she would have left if I hadn't seen her and opened the door. The thought bothered her, almost as much as the notion that Elowen might not yearn for Cassidy's company the way that Cassidy did for hers. After some time spent lingering, both paralyzed by indecision, they decided to go on a leisurely nature walk. For the next few hours they strolled through the forest together, stopping here and there to pick berries or mushrooms. That one is poisonous. Do not touch it. Right. Cassidy drew her hand back in mortified alarm. I would not do for your lovely skin to be married by poisonous spores. Cassidy hazarded a glance at the other woman's face, but Elowen looked as unflappable as ever. Poisonous. Are you sure, or how do you know so much? What should we go with? Let's see. Da 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 da. I have to make it fun, guys. Sorry. I'm used to just talking freely. This is interesting for me. Are you sure, or how do you know so much? How do you know so much? You know so much about the flora and fauna here. However did you learn it at all? I have lived here many years. In that time I have witnessed many interesting things. I have learned much, letting the people who pass through educate me. However, it's been a solitary life. I have seen much, but experienced little. Elowen, I have long felt like someone on the outside looking in on a world I could never touch. There was a melancholy in Elowen's countenance that Cassidy had not yet seen, nor even thought of the woman capable of. The Elowen she knew was dignified, taking such charge of her emotions that none ever showed. I have not known her long, of course. Perhaps that was merely how she comports herself around those of little acquaintance. Reach out, that is. She thought back to her first meeting, the way her own heart had leapt at the sight of Elowen. And Elowen had known all about it, and apparently seemed watching her for some time. You didn't have to be sitting under the tree that day. You could have continued watching me from afar. But you found me, you spoke to me. and I'm so glad she did, but I fear she might call me silly if I say such a thing. I thought you delicately beautiful. The matter-of-fact way that Evelyn said this struck Cassidy. She was flattered, of course, yet part of her was also worried. Beauty was not something lasting. It would be a shaky foundation for any relationship. If it had to be a quarter complimenting her beauty, Cassidy might have taken it better. But this was Elowen, a woman of whom she was becoming increasingly fond. Thought that past tense, is it not? What do you think of me now? I still think you exceedingly beautiful, but dainty and delicate you are not. You are far from being the poised princess I took you for. Cassidy winced, and her mouth formed a little pout as she turned her eyes to the ground. As I thought, it is to be expected someone so graceful as Elowen would of course find me lacking. You are not what I expected, but I believe that might be for the better. Slowly Cassidy tilted her face up, her eyes growing large with disbelief. For the better. You are always exceeding. I wonder if the other people I allowed to come and go would have as well, and I let them so near. Well, it may be selfish of me, but I'm truly happy you let the others go. I'm glad that I'm the only person you allowed close. I'm sorry that makes me sound so ugly. No, no uglier than I. Suddenly, in Cassidy's eyes, Elowen looked so very haggard. She peered through the polished veneer and saw a woman who was tired and hungry. Are you all right? In a blink, Elowen appeared to be the same as always. I'm fine. Even so, Cassidy could not shake the feeling that something was off. Are you quite sure? You seem tired. Elowen was silent for a long while. Yes, perhaps I'm tired. Forgive me, I'm not used to the midday sun. Because she's a vampire, Cassidy. Are you not seeing this? It seems like it to me. It occurred to Cassidy then that she had never seen Elowen in the morning before. Could she be something of a night owl? I hadn't supposed it. And here I invited her to walk with me underneath the full blaze of sun. How thoughtless I am. Elowen? Yes? Why don't you stay with me at my cottage tonight? What? Well, I worried about you, and it can't be easy being a woman and living alone. She knew this was best of all. I would be much more at ease if you would come with me tonight. Let me break bread and while away at the night in comfort. She was not expecting Elowen to accept, not Elowen, who had reacted so strongly to an invitation merely a few days earlier. And yet, all right, really? Would it be better if I returned to my home? No, I just worried that you would not accept. I realize that it's not very dainty to be so forward. At this, Elowen finally smiled. Cassidy's heart felt akin to an acrobat at the sight, doing backflips and pirouettes in joy. It would be my honor to accompany you. It may do us both some good. As ever, Cassidy was far too excited to hear the latter. Looking forward to the night with her new favorite person, she had already changed her course and started along the path home. Oh, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Cassidy closed the front door behind them and went to the kitchen to put away the plants they gathered. Is there anything I can help with? Leave it to me. Just have a seat and rest. You really do look tired. All right. While she put the affairs in order in the kitchen, Cassidy couldn't help but think back to the things Elowen had said. She said that she likes me the way that I am. That's so kind. She felt a deep sense of warmth and satisfaction, the likes of which she had not yet felt in a long time. Cassidy returned to the living room and a short while later, 2 cups of tea in hand. Oh. She found Elowen asleep, slumped on the divan. Poor thing, she must have been exhausted. There was a loose strand of hair in front of Elowen's face. Cassidy reached down and tucked behind her ear. She looks so innocent when she's asleep. Chuckling to herself, Cassidy let Elowen rest and pass some quiet time, reading by the other woman's side. Night soon fell, and the pair souped together. Elowen doesn't eat very much. No wonder she's so thin. Elowen, unaware of being observed so directly, delicately sipped a glass of water. Are you full? I'm satisfied. You eat so little. I'm worried for your health. I eat enough. I do not like doing anything in excess. I see. Her tone left no room for argument. After dinner, Cassidy cleared the plates and the things away and began to get the room ready for sleep. The cottage was not large. Her parlor had to double as her bedroom out of necessity. It was as well and good for a single person, but now that another had been added, Cassidy became acutely aware of the lack of space. There's only one bed. I don't mind sleeping on the divan. the couch to me. I already did earlier. Once again, I'm sorry that I didn't wake you up. You just looked so at peace. I could not bear to wake you. I'm embarrassed to have allowed you to see me in such a state. I only fear... No, it's nothing. I will gladly sleep on the couch or the ground. I'm not choosing. Oh, that won't do at all. You're a guest. Cassidy gulped. Truth be told, she had one other, much more preferable arrangement in mind. Well, we could share the bed. There's room enough for two. Oh, she wants to get freaky. I notice you do not offer to sleep on the couch. Aw. Struck by her own lack of graciousness, Cassidy bit her lip, cowed into silence. I'm only teasing. If you do not mind being so snug, I will be happy to share the space with you. Nothing would please me more than to be close to you. I mean, yes, wonderful. I shall fetch another pillow then. She flew out of the room to retrieve a spare pillow from her closet, face burning with embarrassment. Well, it looks like they got quite close. Do you have enough space? You're not too cramped? I'm fine. Truth be told, I do not mind the proximity. There was a faraway look in Elowen's eyes. I've been alone for so long until you came. How do you come to live here in the forest? Where is your family? Alright, do we say why the hesitation, or perhaps you cannot say? Why the hesitation? It's a simple question, is it not? Why does she have such trouble talking about it? Though I suppose my own situation was not so simple to speak of. Has your family gone away? Elowen, with her mouth in a grim, straight line, stared at Cassidy. It is a trying subject. I'm not quite sure where to begin. She took a deep breath. I have lived here all my life. Once I was not alone, but Elowen paused and sighed. You remember the wisteria tree? Of course, that's my favorite place in the entire forest. Have you noticed that there are no other wisteria trees around? Now that you mention it, she never thought about it, but as Cassidy said, you're right, I wonder why that is. There's no wisteria trees. Just one. There is an even older wisteria tree deep in the forest, but now those are the only two left, and they are so far from each other. So it is with me. Cassidy found her choice of words puzzling, but nodded. I once had a sibling. They have long since departed, so I don't really have family here anymore. Others have come and gone, as I said, but I could not relate to them. I watched them from afar without entering their lives, and did not mourn them when they left mine. And so the years went by. Cassidy snuggled just a little bit closer to the other woman, as if to show meaning through actions where words might fail. And so they passed the night together in pleasant company and warm conversation. When the sunshine blazes down, I soon began to finish for rain. But when you've gone away, my dear, I soon long for the sun again. Day 6. Cassidy awoke alone with a cold space beside her. Again she's gone in the morning. What could she be doing so early? It's highly suspect. She can no longer ignore the gnawing feeling of dread. Perhaps she would ask Elwyn upon their next meeting. She yawned and slowly pulled herself out of the bed. With or without Elwyn, she would have to get on with her day. Cassidy hummed a little tune to herself as she cleaned up and prepared breakfast. Sitting down at the table with her bread and morning tea, she glanced at her stationery set left by her vase. A lot has happened. Perhaps I should write Alexander a letter. Yes or no? I say no. She shook her head. That can't wait. I can hardly focus when I'm so preoccupied where Elwyn has gone. She wondered if the other woman would visit again today. Though always lonesome, before the former princess's life now felt so much emptier without Elwyn's presence. Though she could be accustomed to such a solitude, she could barely concentrate on her unusual chores. To think that a few days could change a person so. In a lull in her activities, Cassidy's gaze went into the window. Deep in the forest, her beloved wisteria tree stood. She could see it so clearly in her mind's eye. Elwyn is like the tree. I wonder if she is there. Let's say, I wonder if she is there. I wonder if she is there now, somewhere in the forest. She passed the rest of the day peacefully, but with a sense of unease. The next day came and still no Elowen. Cassidy was left with nothing but her own thoughts, and thinking of Elowen perturbed Cassidy greatly. In the last several days, the woman had embedded herself into Cassidy's life. I'd never expected to become close to another person again. She felt that Elowen and the things the other woman had said, the hours spent together that were so few but felt as an impossible eternity. I never did ask her about her feet. Why are her toes always curled? Despite how she looks, she must be much older than me. She has a proper way of speaking and always says she's lived in the forest for a long time. And with the introsity of her clothing and manners, something did not quite add up. Elowen did not seem to like people much. Certainly, it did not seem her presence in the wood, despite how long it had been, was known to many. Alexander most probably would not have sent me here if it was known that a beautiful woman was living alone in this very wood. Where did Elowen come from? Why was she alone? She still had no satisfactory in her life. Thinking it all over, Elowen is strange or Elowen is unearthly. I think she's strange. You want to go with one or two, guys? One or two? Alright, I'll pick it. Elowen is strange. She is rather strange. Then again, there is nothing normal about my situation either. This only means that I have more things to discover about her in the future. Cassidy shook her head. If Elowen was a tad strange, Cassidy knew that there was more to her than that. Wasn't there? She can't be blunt, perhaps, but I believe she means well. Remembering the last several days, Elowen is truly monstrous. I would just do this. ... Presently there was a knock at the door, startling Cassidy out of her deep thought. It was a short knock, a single for a letter not accompanying a box. A letter so soon after the last? The letter brought another thought to Cassidy. If I leave here, if one day Alexander allows me to leave, what else awaits me? Is a political marriage truly my only means of escape? If I can be useful to the kingdom in any way, is that better? Will my life no longer be considered a waste? Alexander, did you ever truly love me? I will trust you and wait. I just want to get her nervous. She knew the truth, perhaps, yet she was afraid to accept it. Without her love for her brother, her loyalty to her kingdom, she was nothing. Alexander, I trust that you will do what's best for me and for Boromir. I will await your decision. She could not think of Elwyn, however, without feeling a twinge of guilt. She let out of long sight. Her thoughts had taken her on a not-so-merry chase. If I dwell on these thoughts, there will be no end to them. She brewed herself a cup of tea to calm her nerves and began reading a new book. From time to time, her eyes went somewhat nervously to the window. And so, evening fell. Cassidy was sitting on the couch, enjoying a warm cup of tea as she read the latest book her brother had sent her. It was a darker tale than she was accustomed to, the tale of a tragic young mermaid. It seemed to be a fairy tale from a faraway land. Certainly Viramir had simpler, happier stories. Or perhaps those were the only ones she had been allowed to learn. Goodness, every step she takes feels like walking upon knives. How dreadful! How could this be, authored to be terribly cruel? Suddenly, the front door to the cottage swung open without knock or warning. Cassidy dropped her book in alarm. There was something dreadful standing in the doorway. A monster. Cassidy muttered this under her breath, overcome by fear and awe. It is not safe here. Yet no matter the appearance, Cassidy would never mistake that voice. Melodious, she had found it not long ago. Beautiful, she had thought its barrier until this very moment. She would be hard-pressed to describe Elwyn as beautiful now. What did you say? There is a large army approaching from the east. They wear your colors. Alexander? Cassidy could not help but gasp. The monster nodded.